Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 income estimate review for Jane's retirement portfolio. Made some slides going over numbers of where we expect income to be, and also want to show kind of my thought process, especially now that CD and money market income makes up a pretty significant amount of the portfolio in particular for Jane's traditional IRA. So you'll kind of see some differences there in terms of how the estimates work out to be. So anyway, let's jump into some numbers and let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions, but also if you can subscribe, give me a thumbs up, anything to help me out with the YouTube algorithm is greatly appreciated. So just like the previous video, I'll always err on the side of safety. You're going to see some numbers that look pretty rough at first. And those rough numbers are basically just me trying to be as conservative as possible. So then that way I'm not over promising and potentially under delivering. But also the reason for being bleak like that is because we're talking about a very large shift in the amount of holdings that are now in CDs, money markets, and fixed income type holdings. So anyway, that's a big factor in why you're going to see numbers that look the way that they do. So on here, highlighted in green is the actual income that was generated in the traditional and Roth IRAs for 2023. And then highlighted in yellow is the estimated income that's going to be generated in 2024. And specifically in the yellow is only looking at dividend income. This is not including any of the CDs, money markets, and the reason why I do that is because a lot of the CDs and money markets, well, I shouldn't say money markets, but the CDs have an expiration date that's going to happen at some point during 2024. Makes it a little bit more difficult to accurately project, but I came up with some methods to be able to kind of account for that. So really when you're looking at these numbers that are in yellow, those numbers are just saying if no certificate income was earned, if no money market income was earned, and no dividend increases were made, that's about where I would expect income to come at based on the updated portfolio as of January 1st with all the shareholdings updated in terms of the quantity of stock. It's kind of that snapshot in time. So on the traditional IRA, one of the things in both the Roth IRA, I'll have another slide for that, but one of the things I like to look at is what is the previous dividend increase history. And I realized that I had made a mistake actually on the taxable account calculation. I forgot to do the, you're supposed to do a -1 on there in order to make the equation work correctly. And so the projected rate of increases on the taxable account was actually much lower than what it really has been in terms of the average. So in this case, if we take the 5-year average, we see that it's grown at 26.8% annually. So that's just taking all 5 of these years here and then taking the average off of that. One of the things that I mentioned in the taxable article, though, is that this number here, in my opinion, it's partly inflated, right? And that's going to be because 2018 was the first year that the portfolio was being established. So take this with a grain of salt. This 26.8% is actually higher than what I would expect. I think the other numbers here that you see consistently, those numbers make a lot more sense. So really what we're probably talking about is somewhere closer to the 15, maybe 18% range would be kind of where I would place that estimate at. And then for the Roth IRA, also again, you see that this number is going to be inflated because the first year that the portfolio was established here. There's a little bit more variability. The Roth IRA was more impacted during COVID than the traditional IRA holdings were in terms of the income being generated. But then you see that there's some pretty good years, to make up for it after that. And then 2023 was a pretty solid year in terms of the income growth there. Now, one of the reasons why the year over year increase isn't as bad as the number that you saw on the traditional IRA is going to be because the percentage of holdings in the Roth IRA is significantly more concentrated in dividend paying stocks or dividend type investments, whereas a significant portion of the traditional IRA is invested in certificates of deposit, money markets, and things that are not being included in these estimates here in terms of the income being generated. So I would say on here that the 19.5% still slightly inflated, but we're probably talking about closer to the 15 to 18% range. So this is going to be much closer than what you saw in terms of the average return in terms of the dividend growth or the income growth on the traditional IRA. So when I do the projections here, what I did is I said, okay, we're going to take 2023 income, and then we're going to take the number that I just showed you on the previous slides. So in this case, the income that would be earned if we did not have any income generated from CDs, money markets, or dividend increases, what would the income look like? And then I take the amount of cash holdings, money market, and certificates of deposit. And what I did was I used 4% as the interest rate on those. And the reason for that is because we expect that the Federal Reserve is going to drop interest rates. So right now you can find CDs still in the 4.75 to 5% range. I'm estimating that on average we're going to see something closer to 4%. So again, trying to err on the side of being conservative. But when you take all of those holdings and then apply a 4% interest rate to it, you can see that that constitutes a significant amount of income to the point where even if the portfolio had zero dividend increases over the course of the year, it would still generate a 0.4% higher return than what was seen in 2023 if all those certificates of deposit and money markets were earning 4%. So then in these last three columns, this is where then I say, okay, excluding CDs, because CDs are not subject to dividend increases, what would it look like if we saw a 3% increase in dividend and income, 5% increase, or a 7% increase? So it's actually factoring in the CDs, the income that'd be earned. So in this case here, a 3% increase, because we're excluding the income that's earned from the CDs here, you'll notice that it's not quite a full 3% jump, right? It's going to be a 2.4% jump. And that's because, again, quite a bit of money is tied to CDs, and we don't want to factor in a dividend increase on something that isn't going to have a dividend increase. So we're looking at 2.8% if it was 3% growth, 4.3% if it was 5% growth, and 5.8% if it was 7% growth. So I think that those numbers all seem pretty reasonable. If we did not have so much money invested into CDs, if we had more money invested into dividend paying stocks, then we would see these numbers increase also quite a bit. We would also see these initial estimate numbers increase quite a bit. So there's some variables that play into that. Now for the Roth IRA, same exact logic here, but we're starting off with basically a just under 1% loss of income or reduction of income year over year. Now, if I take the money markets, CDs, and the cash and apply a 4% interest rate to it, and then assume that no dividend increases are awarded over the course of the year, we're looking at about a 15% gain, and that's going to also be in part because the structure of the Roth IRA in terms of the dividends that are being produced. Clearly, it ended the year doing well in terms of continuing to produce a high amount of dividend income, but we do have more shifting towards CDs. So these estimates might seem a little bit high. I would even agree that they do seem quite like, a little bit on the higher side. But the Roth IRA has done a good job of continuing to grow ever since the COVID. So last year, I believe, if I remember right, it was 9.1%. So it's not uh, you know it's not outside of reason that it could end up reaching 15, 17 percent. But once we apply that 3%, 5%, and then the 7% increase, because this portfolio has more dividend paying stocks in it, that's going to be a reason to why you see a more substantial jump here as compared to the traditional IRA, which has much more money invested into CDs and money markets. So as far as the conclusion goes here, so growth in both the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA, like they both seen double digit growth. The traditional IRA has actually been the consistent one in terms of it's always seen double digit growth every year. This is the first year we're projecting that it's not going to have double digit income growth, and that's fine. But it does make sense that because of the type of holdings that we have, that we would see that reduction in terms of having more certificates of deposit and money market. But the Roth IRA, on the other hand, we've been seeing better growth from it since its kind of rough patch during COVID. So again, I think the 17.6% to 19.6% is still kind of on the high side, but that's just what we're projecting, and obviously a projection is just a projection. But we're always going to assume that the growth is going to end up being closer to 3% to 5% on the dividend paying stocks. So with the traditional IRA, again, we'll see a single digit year. So far from the estimates that I've seen, or at least from the numbers that we've gathered from the month of January, it looks like it's going to be much higher than here. But I don't need to say it again, but I'm going to, is that I'm always going to err on the side of safety, because I would just rather underreport something and then over deliver in the end. So I've said this a few times throughout the video. Large difference is going to be how much money is invested into CDs and money markets as compared to dividend paying stocks in terms of what is eligible for dividend increases in terms of those estimates. So that's playing a big factor in the difference between the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA that you see. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Again, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, anything I can clarify. Try to make the videos short enough that they're digestible and interesting enough that I don't lose so many people by the time 30 minutes rolls around. So let me know what you think. I do have one more video estimate for John's traditional and Roth IRA, and haven't really seen those numbers yet, so we'll see what it looks like. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching, and have a great day.